Here at the Giver Marketing Network, we don't leave you drifting out in space. We connect you to a coach who will help you build and grow your marketing business. Our process acts as a guide on how to connect with other businesses, maintain good relations, and establish a presence on the Giver Marketing Network. Each member within this collaborative group will have the opportunity to leverage your talent and influence, a true network effect. If you are looking to collaborate on more projects, welcome to the Giver Marketing Network, the most trusted and highest rated collective of specialists on the planet. Here we have a group of like-minded professionals who focus on making valuable introductions and helping each other grow by teaming up. Imagine Upwork meets a network and a coach. The talent collectively includes services like visibility and SEO, creating logos, designing websites, managing social media, outreach messaging, visual storytelling, and much more. Think of what you could do with laser-focused allies strengthening your business while offering your talent to the entire network. Click near this video for more information.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Giver Marketing Network and Kingdom Warriors University broadcast. We are here today and we're going to be talking about business and marketing, and we're going to have a special conversation today. Christine, Dean, Oz is with us today. There might be one or two others that join us as well. We're going to have a roundtable discussion around 5 T's of business. 5 resources that you can use in your business that will help you. And you can tie this into your marketing and messaging and all these kind of things, but it's going to help you in a general sense for your business. We don't often go into this world, but today we want to have a special broadcast talking about kind of an umbrella thought process, almost a philosophical exercise around how to take your business and expand it in a creative way. So this is going to be super fun. For those who are listening, if you can just put in the comments, hey, I'm listening from this location. Tell us where you're coming from, where you're listening from, where you're seeing this, so that we have better context of how to have this conversation. So Christine, thank you for rocking the broadcast today. Really appreciate you. And we have guests periodically that come through. Actually, almost every time we broadcast, there's a guest that comes and shares. And then every once in a while, we just have a special topic we just want to cover. And in this case, we have 5 micro topics we want to cover. So this is going to be good. All right. So let's jump in as soon as we get a chance to share our stories. Christine, can you share a little bit of your background, kind of how you got to do what you're doing? I'll share a little bit of mine, and then we'll jump right in.
Absolutely. Timothy, I'm glad you asked. I actually come with a teaching background. I taught college, coached the speech and debate team, had a great time, took some time off to raise my kids, and then entered back into the workforce and thought, what do I want to do if I don't want to teach anymore? And next thing you know, my mom said, hey, try credit card processing. I looked at her strangely and said, that seems like a weird choice, but okay, it's sales. How bad can it be? Hated it. Absolutely hated it. So part of knowing what you like is knowing what you don't like. So I stepped away from that, but I discovered that I loved networking and marketing and communications. And my background is communications already. It was like a duck to water. So I absolutely love working in this space of marketing, being able to help people with their marketing and networking.
And you do a great job. We love all the work that you're doing. Your team director for Giver Marketing and working with the Veterans Chamber and your region and beyond, and just really love all that. So that's very cool. Well, hey, a little bit of my story, and then maybe we can jump over to Joel and Oz in just a minute for their kind of background story. I was a pastor for years, for decades, couple of decades, and then God called me into the marketing space to be able to help business owners, nonprofit leaders, community leaders, ministry leaders with their communication. And then what ended up happening later is there's this collective that started forming around this blueprint and some of the signature process and coaching that I was doing. I don't do as much of the coaching now, except for those who are in our network. And we have a network, a collective of marketing professionals that you just saw the video about, that little explainer about. And that's where my focus is. I have a mission now of helping lonelypreneurs in the marketing space find their tribe, find their community. That's why we work with Kingdom Warriors and Chambers and our network, and collaborate with other groups. And we're actually a collective that plays nice with other groups. I can mention other groups like H7, and there's so many others that we've been able to kind of partner up with and say, look, there's a lot of folks in business, but we have a calling. We have a mission to help the marketing professional just expand their business. So super fun to be able to work together. Want to make sure that Joel and Oz are ready to come on screen so that we can kind of introduce each other or share our stories. And I'll start with Oz and then bring up Joel, and this will be good. Oz, can you share a little bit of your background story as we jump into this conversation about time, talent, treasure, technology, and things?
So you don't have to speak well to be an agency owner.
That's right.
So I'm Oz from Oz Fine Art Studio and No More Starving Artists, and I create the gift for the person who already has everything. Lost quite a few friends during the COVID pandemic. Don't have to speak well to be an artist either. And started No More Starving Artists because I didn't want to lose any more friends to bankruptcy and just the ups and downs of life that none of us expected in that 2-year period. And we do amazing things between business owners and artists. And I am very much looking forward to working with Christine Dean, who is my partner, to build this juggernaut so that we can eradicate the term starving artists from our cultural vocabulary forever.
Come on. I love it. So you have this background in art, but you're also a businessman. You not only do business, but you're a businessman. So I'm excited to hear more about what your thoughts are on these topics. Joel, can you share a little bit of your story with us before we jump in today?
Sure. So kind of surprised to be on and in the presentation today. So I apologize for not having my suit and tie on. But,
okay. Going cash today. I like it. Okay.
Yeah, kind of a work day, but so this is great. My background started in the incentive industry, working in corporate America, doing employee motivational programs and attaching productivity to bottom line profits, and then assisting those corporations to reinvest those profits back in their people, so it helps them grow, and really got the message that my purpose was more around building local economies through good, strong local businesses. Shifted my focus from corporate America to the entrepreneur, small, medium-sized businesses that were affecting their local economies, and have gradually grown that now into regional and national companies that have the same vision and mission. So we're able now to work with companies with hundreds of employees and tens of regional offices, and just really enjoying bringing that message back down to the community to sponsor jobs and keep families employed and build strong parks and recreation areas and all the good things that come with a strong economy in the local area.
Love it. And we're an example, Joel. You include, like, we're all an example of people who have built our company based on networking. We've networked with different groups, different tribes, different ecosystems to be able to connect with the right audience and not just go randomly knocking on doors or randomly messaging people that we don't know if we're going to work well. We start the conversations, we network, and then we get to an alignment call or dialogue and find out if there's a great fit for either working as client relationship or as a power partner relationship. And so I love that everybody here has kind of that bent or that strategy for their business. Not everybody has that, but we're going to probably encourage you today to continue doing that strategic networking. It's not random networking. It's strategic networking, right? Christine, you're the networking diva. So we want to lean into your superpowers and kind of how we've all built our business in that way. All right. So with that being said, we're going to cover 5 micro topics today. Okay. We're going to tie it all in toward the end, but I'm going to give you a little teaser. These all relate to each other. They're interconnected. And when we talk about them, I want you to take notes. And we got people signing in from Texas, North Carolina, California, Utah, all over the place right now. And so let us know where you're signing in from in the comments so we get an idea of kind of who we're talking to today and who we're talking with today. And let's jump in. Okay, so here's the 5 if you want to write them down ahead of time. The first one is time. It's our most valuable resource. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Second one is talent. And by talent, we mean your abilities, your strengths, your gifts. We'll talk about that as well. Then the third one is treasure. And we had to find a word that started with the letter T that was closely related to money. So we're essentially talking about the medium of exchange called money or some kind of valuable treasure that we exchange. Okay, all of these we exchange. The fourth one is technology. And some of us would think, oh, that's internet stuff. It's more than that. We'll go way deep. There's a history of technology that goes way before the internet. Okay. And the fifth one is things, the physical things we find valuable in our everyday lives. And that could be large things, small things, extremely valuable things, small tokens of value, depending on our perceived value. Okay. So time, talent, treasure, technology, and things. The theory is, in our discussion, kind of presupposition here, is that they are interconnected. These are 5 resources that we all have at one time or another. Every moment, no pun intended, every moment of time, we are able to leverage and pull the levers of these resources, sometimes together, sometimes individually, sometimes collectively. It depends on what we're doing. But the theory here that we want to explore and kind of pontificate or philosophize or talk about is the fact that we can pull these levers at different times in our business. We can communicate them as marketing professionals that help businesses and ministries and nonprofits and organizations of all kinds. And we can actually get really creative about pulling these levers, especially if we have a superpower in a particular area. We can kind of lean into that one. Okay. All right. So let's jump into it. Time. Christine, Dean, Oz, and Joel. When we talk about time, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
There's not enough of it.
Not enough of it. It's hard to get more of it. It's impossible to get more of it. It's passing, right? Okay, interesting. Oz, what else comes to our minds when you think of time? This can get very philosophical very fast, but we're going to try to keep it boots on the ground if we can. But go for it, Oz. What do you think of when you think of time?
Well, as an artist, my mind thinks a little differently than most normal people. I sit at red lights thinking, how many months of my life have I wasted sitting at red lights? Or I'll be walking into a room and like, should I throw my underwear in the laundry now, which is 20 feet away, or just put it on the bathroom floor and do it as I walk by it later, and I can save 10 seconds? You know, these things occur to me on a regular basis because I think if we think of it a little bit more fractionally, we can literally save a lot of that time. You know, how much time am I wasting on Netflix? How much time am I wasting scrolling the internet that I don't need to when I should be posting on social media rather than reading it? I think we all have 24 hours in a day. Okay, we all utilize them to the best of our ability, but sometimes we don't. Sometimes, let me speak personally, often I do not, when I could be doing something that's moving my business along to give me more freedom and time. I'm doing something that I shouldn't be doing. And I think if we really think about that, we will all have more time in the day for utilizing.
All right. So you're hitting on efficiency, which is a very strong subtopic for time. I love it. I love it. Efficiency of time in relation to our business, our personal lives, our minutes, our outlets, our hobbies, all these different things. Okay. Joel, you have a pretty interesting story around giving time back to some of your employees as a gift. Can you share a little bit of your thoughts on time and then maybe that story? I'd really appreciate it.
Sure. So time to me is about priorities and productivity. So there is time to be wasted that sits in a priority productivity category, which is productive for the individual to recharge and regroup. So I think, how you segment your time is important. And so to answer your second question, one thing that I've done for that is I've told my employees that I would pay them for an hour to just go and study and do anything that makes them feel like they're advancing in their career, improving their skills, learning a language, whatever it might be, taking Google Analytics course, whatever it is, to just take that hour to just go research and have some fun and build their personal skills.
Joel, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So if they choose to meditate in that hour or take a nap in that hour, is that up to them?
Yeah, how they use the time is up to them. We do have check-ins to see how they're using that time because I am buying it.
So a nap is not something that they could be doing.
Generally not.
Okay.
But I will say, because we have some international workers that work on our schedule, which is a tough schedule for them, I will ask them to take a rest period and come back later.
Okay.
Depending on their health and their level of attention.
Napping is important.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go to any Hispanic country and you'll see middle of the day, everything shuts down.
Come
Greece,
on.
Italy, they're all the same.
All right. So rest is a part. Meditation. I heard the word meditation. I heard the word buying time. That was an interesting concept because that's going to tie in later. Very interesting. Some would say time is, I think it was Einstein that started theorizing around time. And he got really, really deep. Some of these brilliant geniuses, some of what they say is proven to be right. And then some of what they say is never proven one way or another. They just kind of mention it and people take it as possible truth. And that's a smart person. So maybe we should believe it. I'm not sure that, there's different, like Einstein was talking about the fact that time is actually not a thing. Like it's technically something we try to measure, but it's not really something you can technically measure at least in his theories. And so I thought that was interesting. But as it relates to kind of boots on the ground and how we leverage every what we would call a moment or an hour or a week of our time, I'm always looking at, okay, time is something of a gift that, like many of us have been saying, it's not easy. You can't get more of it. So how we spend it is a matter of stewardship. It's a matter of honoring the life that we've been given. It's a matter of honoring the creator of the universe for giving us this life. It's a matter of kind of honoring that time, right? So I view it almost as a spiritual conversation in relation to how we plug it into our everyday lives. We're in the middle of some important Jewish holidays right now, right, Christine? I mean, we got a lot of different holidays and celebrations and reflective moments happening all across the world in all different kinds of religions. And I happen to be from a Christian background, but I love to hear what our Jewish brothers and sisters are doing as far as like kind of reflecting on the life that they've been given and how to use and maybe even taking some time away from work to say, hey, I want to really look at how I'm spending my life. Christine, can you speak to that at all right now? Or
I can. And really, it's about prioritizing, right? And like you're talking about giving honor to our creator, the same thing is the honor of your time. And when we make time for worship, when we make time for those kind of priorities in our life. And the Jewish culture is very strict about when you can work, when you can't work. And really, when you think about it, it makes sense, right? The idea of balancing your life a little bit more, right? And saying that you have to take time off. You need to take time off and you need to set that time aside, say thank you to your creator. Right? It makes sense.
I love it. I love it. And some people take that way more seriously than others. And it's interesting that when we bring balance into our life, that the concept of time becomes so important. And when relationships with our parents or grandparents or others that we love are limited as far as time. We just had a family member recently pass way too early. And I wish I would have had a little bit more time with that person. I think we've all been there. And so the priorities become, this is the number one question in masterminds that I've seen, time management. And some would say you can't manage time. We get all that. It's just phrases that we use so that we can understand the concept of kind of taking this fluid concept, this like, it's almost like directing water. Like, how do we direct the water so that it's most effective, most life-giving, most helpful for us? And water is kind of one of those things where you can't really grab it, but you can definitely direct it. So,
Well, and Timothy, when you think about time, we have a choice, right? Every day we have choices. And it's when we don't make those choices for ourselves that other people get to make those choices for us.
come on,
Right?
write that down,
So-
ladies and gentlemen. Write what she just said. Write that down because that
If
is
you
a
don't-
first principle.
Yeah. If you don't make the conscious decision on how you want to spend your time and where you want to allocate it and what you want to devote it to, whether it's your creator, whether it's your family, whether it's your work, wherever you want to put that, that's up to you to decide. And you have to make that conscious decision or someone else will make it for you.
Love it. Love it. I know there's
Hey,
a lot of,
Tim.
yes.
So
Eddie.
I'm gonna get a little bit woo woo here, but I am completely convinced that I can slow down time, and let me explain what I mean. There were certain things in my life that no matter what else is going on, I do every single day, 365 days a year, and one of those is going outside barefoot, no matter what the weather is, and doing my stretch workout and meditation for 20 minutes on the lawn in front of my house. It's called grounding. And I have noticed that there are days where I look at the clock and I'm like, geez, I've only got 10 minutes. And I do my entire stretch and workout. And I don't take any extra time. I come back inside. And it only took me 10 minutes when I knew I was out there 20.
Hey, it feels like it. There's a concept like that in athletics as well. And I don't know if maybe we've heard of this, and then we'll maybe just jump to our next topic. But the concept of being in flow, and a lot of people get really woo woo with this stuff. Some people use it more pragmatically, but bottom line is this: there's nothing wrong with going outside, walking around without your shoes on some dirt. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it's okay. Like, people do that all the time. Like, try it. It's not going to hurt you unless there's glass on the ground. Okay. So even then, like, just be careful. Like,
Legos.
right?
Got to watch out for the Legos.
Yeah, and the Legos. Yes, of course. So, in fact, yeah, there's kind of an irony right there. Plastic. Okay. So, anyway, bottom line is when you're an athlete, there's something that, or a business owner, they've used this a lot in being in flow. I remember playing college baseball and batting against a current Major League Baseball player who came in and did a practice with us. And I'm sitting here and I'm watching this ball come at like almost 100 miles an hour. It's probably 90 miles an hour, something like that. And I was looking at this ball coming through and I'm like, if I get really focused, it almost feels like you can slow down time to hit that little white thing coming at you at 90 miles an hour. And I'm not saying that we're doing it with our mind. There might be something to that. I have no idea. God created us in very special ways. That's fine. And there is a reason we have superheroes and superpowers that we mention in all cultures at all times. There's possibilities. Who knows? But bottom line, for me is if you get really focused on what's important, like Christine was talking about, and kind of do some of these exercises that help us get into these focused times where we reflect on things that are really important. I mean, I'm thinking of Franklin Covey's or the Eisenhower matrix, which talks about urgency versus importance. And there's a matrix. There's 4 quadrants. And really, you only have to track 3 of them because the other one's kind of a waste of time, to be honest with you. Or it's meant for a future time. Let's put it that way. But look up the Eisenhower matrix or the Covey matrix. And I think it's called the Eisenhower matrix. If you want to look it up, it's really fascinating in a way to kind of compartmentalize how you're leveraging certain kinds of your activities. Okay. All right. So there's some tips for you, some really philosophical, interesting conversations. I believe it's the most valuable resource. Everything else we're going to talk about is distant second. It's not even close. In fact, everything else we're going to talk about helps us leverage more time. Okay. So number 2, talent. And when we mean talent, we don't necessarily mean the biblical reference of the little piece of silver that they used to hand out, even though that is tied to what we're about to talk about. Okay. Talent is oftentimes associated with the value that you bring to the world, some kind of ability, strength, or superpower, we call it in different business circles. I would love to hear some of the thoughts that just basic first principles, like overarching thoughts about talent and abilities and skills and these kind of things. I'll start with you, Christine, and then we'll just kind of go around the horn.
Well, for me, when it comes to talent, we all have some kind of superpower. And sometimes you have a hard time figuring out what that is. Don't give up. It's there. You just got to find it. And it may be something so obscure that you're like, how is that even important? But it is, right? The idea is to find that superpower, that skill that you have, that talent, that inborn talent, and use it for good. That's my philosophy on it, right? Whatever it is, there's a way to make it work for good. And there's a way to monetize it if you want. So they have experts, and we just had somebody on a show recently where that's her whole job. She helps people discover their superpower. I thought, how cool is that?
Come on. A lot of people say that if you invest in yourself and find your superpowers and strengths and hone those in, that's the best investment you can make because it's tied to your time and your efficiency and all that. Okay, Oz, when it comes to talent, you're obviously a talented artist. You're an up and coming business mogul in the art space, helping other talented artists rise, almost like a talent finder in one way, shape, or form. Can you explain to us a little bit more of your perspective on just skills, talents, even how to develop them?
None of the things you mentioned are my superpowers. I'm really good at all of them. My superpower is connection.
Yeah, I do notice that as a kind of a natural trait of yours. So that's cool.
Well, because I love putting people together, somebody who needs something, somebody who has something, and just smash them together and walk away, And then 2 weeks later on a networking meeting, somebody goes, Oz sent me a connection and I made thousands and thousands of dollars. And of course, my joke after that is, where's my 10%? Which I never get, but that's okay. I get a lot of pizza and a lot of connections. So I really believe, and I want to meet that person who finds your superpower, because somewhere in that mix and meld, I know what my superpower is, but figuring out a way to really, really monetize it, I think is the key, because I don't know how to monetize being a connector. Never figured out, other than getting a lot of connections that turn into money.
Let's remember to land on that. Somebody put that in the comments. Monetizing your superpower. Okay. Put that in the comments or the chat. Joel, when it comes to talent, the second T of our discussion today, how do you view this? Is it super pragmatic? Is it kind of woo-woo? Like, how do you look at this?
Well, there's a couple of viewpoints that I enjoy sharing. One is, you were speaking about it from an athletic perspective, and we talk about the top athletes who are able to slow down the game. And you'll notice that someone who's not as talented in the sport plays more frantically for the lack of a better word, where someone who is highly skilled just seems to make it look easy. And you walk away thinking anyone could do this, right? But try to break a 10-second 100-yard dash, right? You see it happen and you think, wow, that guy's not even sweating, he's not even out of breath, right? Meanwhile, there's the other 8 people on the lanes that are gassed, laying on the ground and wondering, why they chose that profession. So I think when it comes to talent, we really look for people that are good and seem naturally good at what they're doing. And if we can maximize that level of competence, right, then we have a higher level of delivering a quality product.
I like that perspective. It's kind of leaning into your natural abilities. Some thoughts on that, even as we bring in one of our other guests and kind of roundtable discussion panelists. We're talking about time, talent, treasure, technology, and things as a kind of a 5 resources we all leverage in everyday life. As a reminder, so when it comes to talent and abilities, I think there's a misnomer in some countries, some regions, some areas of the world, maybe even some eras, if you think of it that way. I think in our modern era, we think if we're born talented, we're just going to be successful. And there's a possibility. It's kind of like having a seed with potential. Like there's a possibility of that happening. And there's a probability, if you're kind of in the right environment, that could happen. Okay, good. That's kind of like being planted in the right dirt. Okay. But you still got to water it. You still got to nurture it. Like you still got to do the things. And so when it comes right down to it, there's an aspect of investing time into your talent. So there we go. We just tied in the first 2 T's, time and talent. And this is going to get really fun, really fast for all the business owners, marketing professionals, kingdom movers and shakers, ministry leaders, others in the room that are watching this. Because we're going to start getting into some of the conversations that are a little bit more uncomfortable here in just a minute. But Dustin, as we kind of wrap up this conversation around talent, before we get into treasure, which is the kind of more controversial one in some people's minds, what are your thoughts about talent, abilities, skills, these kind of things in general? Just kind of first overarching concepts that you've learned over the years.
Well, I jumped in late, but the things that I heard when I jumped in, it spurred this. One of my life philosophies is that, the common cliche is that knowledge is power. And I completely disagree. I think knowledge is only potential power. Knowledge unapplied is useless. And I think that's the same with talent. Talent is potential success. Talent unapplied is useless. And so we all, I think, have a responsibility to till that soil, right? And water that soil of our talents and with our time, making great use of our time. So I'm just a re-articulation of something you already elegantly said. So
this is good. It's always good to have different voices kind of rallying around certain topics. And that's kind of the style of our discussion today. We oftentimes have one guest and then a roundtable discussion or a panel group of folks come in later and kind of put the guest speaker on the hot seat. But today we're all on the hot seat. We're all having fun. We're all having this dialogue. Okay.
And Timothy, if you go back to the sports analogy, just ask people like Jerry Rice and Kobe Bryant and Larry Bird and Magic Johnson how much time they put into developing their talent. You'll find that it's hours and hours outside of what everyone else does. Right? Kobe used to say, I start at 5 practicing because my competition starts at 7. So I get 2 hours a day more than my competitor. And over time, that multiplies.
especially if that time
Also,
is
Joel, the other
hyper-focused,
part
right?
was he loved what he did. Absolutely, Kobe absolutely loved what he did, and I think loving what you do is critical to being incredibly successful. Like I know Dustin loves what he does with Magi, okay, and I know Timothy loves what he does with We Giver Marketing, and Joel, I know you love what you do. You know, helping people to market all of their services and products, and I love what I do with art. But I want to go back to something Timothy said, and those of you will understand this if you're into the MCU at all. You said you have to be planted in the right dirt. My only response is I am Groot.
Excellent reference. Excellent. Bonus points for Oz. Somebody give bonus points for Oz in the comments. Excellent reference. Thank you, sir.
I am Groot.
All right. I am Groot. Good.
We are Groot.
This is why we love different personality types in group settings. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why it works so well. Okay. Treasure. The third T. Again, time, talent, treasure, technology, things. There's no particular order except for the first one. The first one is the most valuable resource that has ever been given, because you ask anybody on their deathbed if they could give their millions of dollars for another 10 years with their family, they do it in a heartbeat, with rare exception. Okay, so ultimately, time. We talked about talent. Let's talk about treasure. Okay, when we talk about treasure, in my mind, and kind of this how we're laying this out today, it's really monetary or mediums of extreme value. That those things that we treasure, countries and governments and even just groups of people develop what we now call money. This didn't always used to be a thing. Believe it or not, it wasn't really a thing as we know it today, where we have pieces of paper or digital transactions. This is a modern era invention. Okay, at least the digital side, and then even paper money. I think was originally. There's some references to China. There's some references to other places. But listen, bottom line is this. We've always treasured certain shiny objects or certain sanctioned objects as monetary mediums of exchange. Let's talk about this, because there's a big issue right now in some circles around, like, they either love money so much that it rules their life. This, like, they literally are trying to store up as much in a closet somewhere or in a bank somewhere, all the money they can, and that's like their whole goal in life. Or you got the other end of the spectrum, where treasure is like they're allergic to it. They're allergic to money. Like, they just, I don't do anything for money. Like, I just don't feel like it's like dirty. Like, I don't like money. Like, money is like, I don't even like to talk about it. And it's like, wait a minute. These are, I understand both, why people would do both extremes, but why would we need to view treasure or / money in this way? Like, why do we do this? Gentlemen, can you shed some light on this concept of treasure? First of all, kind of what is it to you, and what place does it have in your life? And then why are there so many extremes around this? What's the thing? What's the deal?
Well, Tim, money builds churches, synagogues, and ministries. And people would argue, well, no, it's not money, it's people that build it. But people have to be paid because they have to have money to spend. There's a great story told by Mary Morrissey. When she was young, before she was really this massive trainer that came up even before Tony Robbins. She came up with the big guys, decades and decades ago. She went to a spiritual training thousands of miles from her house, drove there in her old beat up van thing, and sat there. And this guy gets up on stage, and he's dressed meticulously, this perfect suit. And he comes out and he's looking at the entire audience, and he takes out a wallet and he pulls out a wad of $100 bills, and he holds it up in front of everybody, and he smells it. And he goes, "Oh, I love money. Money is amazing. Money is just my life. I love money. It's amazing. I love money." And she in her mind is thinking, this is like this spiritual person. This is terrible. I don't understand. Why am I here? I'm wasting my money. I should go home. I'm disgusted. This is horrible. All these thoughts are running through her mind. And then he looked at everybody in the audience, and she swears he looked directly at her and said, who was disgusted with what I just said? And he went on for like 5 minutes, and she raised her hand, and so did everybody. Who wanted to leave while I was saying what I just said? And everybody raised their hand. And he went on and on and on. And he said, well, I want you to picture this. What if I came to the stage with my 4-year-old grandson, and I held his hand, and I walked up to you, and I picked him up, and I smelled him, and I said, I love my grandson. My grandson is amazing. He is the greatest thing in the world. And he went on and on and on. How would you feel about that? And everybody was like, oh my God, this would be great. And he said, the reason you're not successful is when you love money and what it can do as much as I love my grandson, you will be successful. And that is all mindset. It's the mindset of, first of all, the Bible never said, money is the root of all evil. It said the love of money is the root of all evil. Okay? But loving what money can do, because the poor cannot help the poor. Okay? Money buys sustenance, it buys survival, it buys thriving, and it buys churches and synagogues and ministries and everything else. So, that's the way I look at it. It is all 100% mindset, that if you think money is bad and evil, and a lot of us are brought up that way, then there's that block, their mental block, that you can't make that money.
Good story. Interesting concept. There's a nuance here in the language that's going to be super interesting to unpack. Joel, what are your thoughts about money?
Largely, I put money in a perspective of compensation, and I try to temper it with greed. So if I feel that I'm well compensated and I don't feel like I'm really being greedy about it, right, then it's a healthy relationship to it. If I feel like I've put one over on somebody, then it just feels icky, right? So I think, my perspective is not so much accumulation as it is distribution.
Okay, that's it. Well, that's worth writing down, ladies and gentlemen. That phrase right there, it's distribution, not just accumulation. I love that phrase. Keep going, Joel.
Yeah, I mean that really sums it up. I enjoy a good lifestyle. We're not rich, we don't have all of the trappings of success, but we're happy, right? And the happy quotient is a huge part of the feeling of prosperity. And so when it comes to money, yeah, we need money to pay bills. We need money to enjoy and be philanthropic and to give to others, right? So we have to be compensated. But when it comes to the display that we've seen in our society and in recent times around the greed factor, taking advantage of people, overcharging the government, whatever it is, and you could point to a million examples of it, then it becomes distorted. And so,
okay,
having a good, healthy perspective of how you want that tool to be utilized in your life, I think is an important view. And I do enjoy supporting my employees, and I enjoy seeing them grow and paying them more and all that good stuff. So we are looking to be well compensated fairly, but like I said, it's not about the accumulation as much as how we can utilize it and distribute it.
Come on. I'm thinking of, not everybody loves Dave Ramsey, but I'm just going to take an old school quote: live like no one else so you can live like no one else and give like no one else. That kind of concept is super, super interesting. Dustin, what are your thoughts around money? I mean, you're building this AI company that's taking over the world and having some fun doing it in a positive way. But when it comes right down to the medium of money, or treasure that we exchange all the time, how do you think of it?
Well, your original question was to the effect of, why are there such extremes around money, extreme points of view? And I was just thinking about that while Joel was talking, and I think there's just so many psychological effects that money has caused in our culture. And since it's such a universal medium and has created this, I think the biggest thing is it's created sort of a class system, right? We've associated the accumulation or lack thereof of money has kind of associated us with a certain class of person. Back in the Elizabethan days, it was the upper class and the lower class. And, we have yet to shake that sort of primitive approach to culture, society, and people. And I think because of that, it has created a lot of very polarized views of money, whereas those who have a lot of it tend to think very highly of it. Those who don't have a lot of it tend to think very adversely towards it. They have hard feelings towards it because it's been a source of them being downcast or them being mistreated or undervalued because they lack this object. And I think we have to overcome a lot of that, no matter where you came from, whether you came from the upper side or the lower side of the tracks, so to speak. Personally, I see it as a tool. It's just another tool in my toolbox to do God's work. I'm in His kingdom. I'm serving Him in His kingdom. At the end of my days, I'm going to stand before Him, and all I want to hear is, "Well done, good and faithful servant." And He's going to look at my time, my talents, and my treasure. That's going to be one of the things He looks at when He's evaluating whether or not I did a good job as His servant serving in His kingdom. And so I see it as something that I am given to steward, to handle well, to manage well, and to resource His kingdom with. So every business that I build, every place I put my money, I try to think of it as this is a tool I'm using for God's kingdom and to do well with, so that when at the end of my days, when I see Him in all His glory and have to give an account, that He sees that I've done well with what He's given me. So to me, money's a tool, but it is psychologically very hard for a lot of people to get to that, over that, some of those barriers, those mental barriers that money has caused and divided our society into.
I was talking to a friend of mine recently, and he was giving me some leadership coaching, and then he asked me some questions about some other things. It was a type of session swap. It was super fun. But by the time we were done, we basically demystified money and pulled it out of the conversation as an item of worship. Because a lot of us do worship money, whether we realize it or not. Because it's talked about so much, you kind of start idolizing it, and just it buys you so many opportunities, and those are good. Those are fine. It's just at some point you got to evaluate whether you're worshiping the medium of exchange or something else. So ultimately, we pulled the topic of money, the mystery of it, or the idolization of it out, and then we put it back in as just a tool, just a medium, just a resource, and a lot of the times people will use analogies. Like I like using simple analogies like bread or water or something that it comes and goes. It's something that may be easier for some to find and harder for others to find, but it definitely is plentiful and available. Okay, it is running around somewhere. We just got to figure out where to get it, and if we need it, then we go get it. But then also I've heard people like Michael Saylor talk about money and monetary systems and these kind of things as a medium of exchange of energy. That's interesting. Almost like electricity, where it goes back and forth, and as you need it, you kind of tap into it and kind of get yourself hooked up and juiced up with some electricity and energy as you need. And then you disperse it like Joel was talking about. You distribute it accordingly. That's interesting too. So if we can take the mystery or the idolization or the worship of money out of the equation just for a minute and then pop it back in for what it is, it's like a lot of other things. It has a mixture of psychological effects and these kind of things. Super interesting. Okay, Cool. So that topic alone could take, days and days and days to discuss, but we just touched the surface of it. Ladies and gentlemen, treasure/money or monetary systems are one way to exchange value. They're one way, one of many ways. And this is where we want to get our brain kind of opened up to the possibility that we might be in business to exchange our time and talent for treasure, but we also might be able to exchange it in other ways. Okay. I oftentimes will challenge people to incorporate like a 5 or 10% alternative payment method option, like off menu option in their businesses, just to see what it does to their marketing mind. How in the world? Now, look, not everybody can afford do that right off the bat when they're first starting, but I might push back a little bit and say, you got to get your reps in anyway. So get yourself a paying client or some paying customers in some way, shape, or form, and they may not pay you. And this often utilized form and medium of exchange called money. All right.
Okay, fine. I'll start accepting Dogecoin.
Come on. There he goes. He's good. He's getting it. He's just helped us with a transition into technology. Okay. So here we go.
You're
Ready?
welcome.
You're welcome. Yes. Thank you, Dustin. Okay. So technology, ladies and gentlemen, technology is oftentimes a shiny object that can be distracting for others and extremely useful for some as well. There's extremes to this as well. Some people hate technology. Some people fear it. Some people overly focus on it as if it is the reason for existence. And then there's others that are like treating it like a list of tools or mediums or resources, kind of like we're doing today. There are so many extremes with some of this stuff, especially for those who come from spiritual or religious circles. It's kind of an interesting thing that's happening right now. And it always has happened. I mean, think about technology. Think about when they started leveraging like different technology around metals and what that did to our world. And if you don't know about all that stuff, just go look it up. We don't have time to go into it all today. Bronze, just look up bronze or different kinds of metals that change the world. Okay. There's a reason they call it the Bronze Age. Okay. Like this is technology. Okay. This is not just skilled labor. This is technology that they created and got. Yes, very interesting. Then you go into other eras where technology, even technology like the printing press or technology like electricity, like we just mentioned before, or certain sewing machines. Oh my gosh, I went through a museum in South Carolina that blew my mind when it came to like what the sewing machine actually did for the world. Yeah. Super, super fascinating. All these technologies, seems like every 10 years, there's a cool technology that comes out. Every 100 years, there's like a world-changing technology that nobody will ever be the same. Just look at history. It's full of technology, and it's not always related to the internet. That's just the era we're in now. Look at the farming tools. These are technologies to help us generate more food. You know how many people's lives have been saved because of farming tools? Like there's just very cool topic. We could spend a lot of time in each one of these. I'm actually in the middle of writing a book on these 5 T's. So it's super fascinating to me to get everybody's perspective on this. All right, let's talk about technology, and we can land on AI and internet and Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. We can do all that stuff today for a few minutes. That's totally fine, but let's not limit it to just that. Okay, let's talk about technologies in a philosophical or a general sense. Okay. And we have other guests that are in the green room kind of waiting to chime in as well. So if you want to be brought on to the live broadcast, just pop a note in the VIP Zoom room and we should be good. All right. Oz, let's start with you. What are your thoughts about technology in general and how it applies to your life and business?
I wouldn't have a business without technology. You know, I couldn't have spent an hour with Dustin yesterday learning Midjourney on Magi at a higher level without technology. 99% of my art comes through technology. I connect with people through technology. We're using technology right now. Tim, I've met you in person once. Okay. I've met Dustin and Joel only on the internet, okay. I may never meet them in person. Hopefully I will at some point. We'll have a big Giver marketing convention in a couple of years. All right. Where everybody will go and, love on each other.
We'll probably partner with Kingdom Warriors and some other groups, but
of course
that's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
I know. As long as it's happening in Salt Lake City, I'm there. So,
all right.
Hey, we got a great place here, and we got mountains. Look, just those are mountains.
Yeah.
But look, technology, can either be a bane to our existence, like with a lot of the kids getting bullied on technology on social media, or it could be an absolute joy. There were tech billionaires that, what would Zuckerberg be doing if it weren't for Facebook? I don't know, So, technology, it's a slippery slope. It's either really, really good or really bad, but any tool, any technology can be used for good or evil. And we know that.
A lot of things, right? Because humans are born with a lot of negative tendencies and traits. Unless they're guided in a positive direction, they're going to end up at the bottom of the barrel of life if they're not careful, right? So we're born with weirdness going on at the beginning. So we got to get some guidance. Otherwise, we're going to use technology in a nefarious way or a bad way or a hurtful way. And so what you're saying is absolutely spot on, Oz. I mean, how we use this stuff is probably more important than the fact that it even exists.
Right.
So awesome way to start us off on this technology. I was going to say tangent, but it's not. It's just a very interesting conversation. Okay, Joel, technology. I mean, we're obviously using it. Oz has made some great points. Anything to add or kind of put some spice on the conversation there?
Yeah, I think definitely. And what's not in our view so often because of internet technology or digital technology is the service industry that uses technology to make our lives better. A lot of my clients are in the manufacturing and water treatment and other industries that are serving the public good with technology. And this whole thing of zero liquid discharge, to where we're separating hard materials and matter from clean water so that we could have and reuse that water and burn the solids or use them as building materials and things like that. So there's so much technology going on behind the scenes that we didn't even think about. Just think about your sewage plants, right? All of that. There's just so much technology going on. Manufacturing process, right? How do you resurface aluminum? How do you put texture on building materials? I mean, there's so many forms of technology that we are not in our purview because they're not cool or they're not current or whatever. And so I definitely want to punch up the conversation to say that technology is influencing so many different areas of our lives that we didn't even think about. Think of solar energy, right? There's lots of things, that we have done to sustain life or improve life that technology provides.
Well said. Well said. For sake of time, I'm just going to ask for a little popcorn 1-2 punch from Dustin and Chase, as Chase is on with us live and we're having lots of fun together. Dustin, you make a career out of this. This is what you do. Can you give us kind of like a couple of nuggets to at least tease our brain a little bit here?
Well, I think if I have a few words to say, I would say, there are a lot of different kinds of ways people think about technology. Some people love it, some people fear it, some people hate it. Fun story, I love it. My wife hates it. So I am married to someone who just gets frustrated with technology often.
Sure.
So I guess that's the balance in my household. But to those who fear technology, I think fear is the enemy. Technology is the application of knowledge towards progress and making everything better. And so, fearing technology is simply fearing your own betterment. And I think we need to fight that as hard as possible. But we also have to be responsible, I think, with all technology. all the MCU fans out there, with great power comes
great responsibility.
Thank you, Oz.
Look at these. Come on, drop in these references.
So, we have to be responsible in our pursuit of increasing our knowledge and applying it to our daily lives. And that's what I try to do. And hopefully, everybody who is entrusted with the gift of understanding technology and pushing technology forward has that same respect and same responsibility.
Awesome. And we'd love to talk more about that. I think is it next week that we're going live
next
together?
week? I actually thought it was this morning.
Good. You're prepared, brother.
Then I looked at the calendar. I was like, oh, no. But next week, yes.
This is good. This is your practice run. This is good. All right. So we're teasing and teeing up the conversation for next week, which Dustin will be on with us for the full hour. We'll have some more guests and others in the room as well. Oz will probably be here and others. So that'll be super fun. All right.
Wouldn't miss it. Gotta go.
Oh, yeah. Oz has got to go right now. Chase jumped in.
Take it over, Chase.
Take over, Chase.
All right. Well, I just followed a link on the Slack of the Giver community, and so here I am. This is what technology does: is you just follow these links, and you'll open to a room of technological bliss.
Well, you're just in time for the wrap up. So we're wrapping up technology, and then I'm going to put a bow on this with the last T of our conversation. We went through time, talent, treasure, technology. Any thoughts on technology? I mean, you're someone who communicates, consults, gives advice, and matches people with technology on a daily basis. Any quick thoughts on technology and how it's either kind of good or maybe a distraction, or like any thoughts on that?
Yeah, totally. Really quick, I would say there's a quote that someone said that SaaS, which is software as a service, is eating the world. And so technology is eating the world. And I think one thing that I've had happened to me in the past is I just bought every tool under the sun and had a huge monthly payment every month on all these different tools. So I would definitely say that support and service and optimization is really key to understanding tools and technology and going really deep instead of really wide.
Super helpful tip. Thank you, Chase, for that, because oftentimes people will ask what tools or resources should we use from a technology standpoint. And I often just say, look, do you have somebody to help you manage it? That's like rule number one in Fight Club. Like, do you have someone to manage it? Then you can go do your thing and take over the world. Like, that's super. And it could be you, it could be somebody else. I'm just saying, this is somebody going to be dedicated to leveraging and pulling those levers of technology well for you. Okay, great. Kind of topic discussions or discussion topics. Last thing, I'm going to wrap up with this. I'm just going to probably just mention a couple of things really quick here, because just for sake of time. Thank you so much for everybody who's been in the room. And for those who want to learn more about like how to leverage all of this, reach out to one of us that you see on the broadcast today. Look us up on the internet in some way, whether it's LinkedIn, or look up the business name, or at least our names. Just look us up, try to find us. Dustin, how do you spell your last name?
Stout, as in I'm a little teapot, short and stout.
Okay, I like it. Okay. All right, last thing. Technically, we're going to be talking about things, okay? Houses, cars, items of value that are around your home, things we use, things we utilize. These kind of things can be leveraged to help your business. And you're like, how does anything but my boat help my business or my house when I have parties? How does that even help my business? You'd be surprised. If you have a vehicle or some kind of item of value. I've mailed collectible Bitcoin, like metal Bitcoins to people in exchange for other things, and had some fun doing that. Personally, I've had the opportunity, I hope that nobody from the IRS is listening right now, to barter close to $1 million in my lifetime. And it's super fun. I'm part of barter clubs, so it's all legal and all these kind of things. Okay, so don't worry about that. But it's super fun to be able to exchange different items of value. I've bartered consulting for computers. I bartered cars for different things I needed in my business. Look, if you're hungry enough to change the world in your business, in your ministry, even in your whatever in your life, you'll find a way to compensate people for the value that they're giving you. It's always mutual exchange. Always. You're always looking for mutual exchange. If anybody gets over on somebody else, try to make it equitable. Circle back and try to make it equitable. Figure it out. And a lot of that's perspective, so you got to keep that in mind as well. But if you give your best, even if that means, look, I paid you this much cash or this much digital currency or whatever it is, but I'm going to give you a little bit of my time and talent to be an extra bonus blessing. Or, hey, how about I buy you dinner? You're technically buying items of food for that person. It's an experience. There's a lot of combinations we can use to pay people. So think outside the box of, I need more money. Money's great. You can exchange it for a lot of these other things except for time. But ultimately, especially these last four, use them interconnectedly to be able to leverage your business, promote the fact that you're flexible in how you work with power partners and others and resources, and leverage these as good stewards of these resources. All right, so that's my monologue for the idea of leveraging things. Oftentimes we use money to buy things anyway, so we might as well exchange them if we're not using them. I have people come over to my home in my local town. I exchange things for, here, have my lawnmower if you can help me with this, or give me some fishing equipment for this. Like that's just on the personal side, because I don't want to collect junk anyway. I don't want to collect things that are even awesome, but I don't use them anymore. Like here's a carpet that I ordered by accident and I don't want to return it because it's too expensive. You have it and drop off your bass guitar for my son. Like what's wrong with that? Do this kind of stuff in order to get to know your neighbors, your business partners, your associates, your ministry connections, all this kind of stuff. And you'll never be alone or be without the resources that you need to accomplish your mission. Was that a good monologue or what? Come on, gentlemen. Come on, give me a thumbs up or something. Like, let's go. Let's go. All right. God bless you guys. We will see you either later this week or at least next Tuesday, same time, same channel right here with Dustin Stout. Look all of us up on LinkedIn or social platform of your choice, and we'll be able to connect with you that way as well. All right. God bless you guys. Talk to you soon. That was fun. Really enjoyed it.